What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is something that had been rumored for quite some time. There have been many NBA insiders, including Stephen A. Smith, that have been suggesting that the NBA move to this format during the AllStar weekend, as far as the AllStar game is concerned. At one point in time, the AllStar game was the highlight of every NBA season. As fans, we couldn't wait to watch the creme de la creme of the NBA go at it. We understood that the first three quarters were for entertainment and, showcase of basically a showcase of the players' skills and their attributes, their strengths. But the fourth quarter would be a time where the game would get serious and the competitive spirit would kick in with these great players. But over the past decade, we have seen a decline in the overall play. We even seen a game recently where a team scored 200 points for the first time in the history of the NBA. And two teams combined for well over 400 points. Enough is enough. Adam Silver and the front office of the NBA, they now have a format starting next year where it will be Team USA versus Team World. Now, at first, when I heard this, I was thinking, wait a minute, Team World, do they mean that they're going to have international players playing overseas playing in this game? And how would that affect the number of All-Stars? But then I learned from listening, what they're going to do is, first of all, this game is going to be in LA. Secondly, they're going to have, as we've seen, an explosion of international players in the NBA. Team World is going to have all of the great international players who don't play, players who aren't from the United States. So you're going to have Giannis on that team. You're going to have Joker on that team. You're going to have Wemby on that team, barring injuries, of course. You're going to have Shea, and you're going to have Luka Doncic. And so you're going to have all of the league's best international players on this team versus the American team, whatever that might be, Steph Curry, James Harden, if he's at that level still, Kevin Durant, et cetera, et cetera. So pride, if that can't get pride out of these players, then nothing will, okay? It's a last-ditch effort to get these players that want to go out there and compete. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem. I mean, the All-Star weekend has really fizzled. The ratings are way down. Nobody's watching the games anymore. This is last-ditch effort to get these players to go out there and play hard. And it's sad it's come to this, man. It's sad. And I put a lot of this on LeBron James and that generation of players, but in particular LeBron James, because he's the one that is the supposed leader and the best player of this generation, right? And he's the one who made it acceptable to go team up and collude with other stars and be on super teams and win it the easy way instead of like Kobe Bryant get it the ski mask way. He's the one who, made it cool to dap up players after the game. You can suffer a crushing loss and dap up a guy and take photos with players and their relatives and show absolutely no competitive spirit whatsoever. He's the one that helped to create this culture, this buddy kumbaya culture. So a lot of this is on LeBron James. There's another stain on his legacy. And I'm gonna tell you something. I agree with something that Stephen A. Smith said. Because I'm talking about this on First Take. And I rarely watch First Take, but this was a good segment. If this fails, if this can't get the competitive spirit to come back to these games, then ultimately eventually we're going to see the All-Star Weekend fold. We're going to see it fold. And if that happens, that's going to be a stain on the legacy of all of these players this generation, because that means that for the first time in the 80-year history of the NBA, a generation of players will have left the game in worse hands, in worse shape, I should say, than when they took over from the prior generation. The league's first superstar was Joe Fulks, right? The league was not doing too well in the first couple of years in the 40s. George Mikan came along in around the late 40s and 50s, the league's first true superstar. And, the league went up a little bit. At first the salaries were about $2,000-3,000 a year. Then when George Mikan came along, guys started getting paid $10,000 a year, $15,000 a year. Then the great Elgin Baylor came along, and players are making $20,000-30,000 a year. Then Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain came along, and players were making $100,000 a year. Okay, then you push to the 70s with Pete Maravich, and you had the ABA as competition. You had those great Knicks teams or Knickerbockers teams with, Earl of Pearl Monroe and Walt Frazier, and guys were making $250,000 a year. Then you fast forward to the late 70s when Kareem was at his apex. Guys was, as far as his abilities in the late 70s, guys were making $500,000 a year. You get where I'm going with this? Then you had Magic be the first, and Moses, they were the first millionaire players as far as making $1 million a year. Larry Bird, his last year in the NBA, I think he was making $7 million a year. He was the highest paid player in the league. And then, you saw with Jordan, and the guys was making $15-20 million a year. And then salaries just exploded. And now we're at the point now where the money, these guys are making so much money now. These guys are making $50-60 million a year. Now you got guys who are approaching 70. So it's going to be $80 million a year. But is the game at where it once was? We can't say that. At least up until this time. Now, this new generation of players, there's promise, but we have seen a slippage in game as far as the play is concerned, the effort. We've seen a slip in accountability. That bullshit that LeBron pulled last year, he's the most selfish motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. And I totally slipped my mind that he did this because there's so many infractions on the game this guy has committed, and sometimes I forget some things. But this guy selfishly waited till the last minute, 30 minutes before tip-off, to say that he had a fake injury. We know he loves faking injuries, just so that he couldn't be replaced during an All-Star Weekend, because having that honor means so much to him. So he denied somebody the privilege of being an All-Star. He's a selfish bastard. I can't wait until he leaves. The game will be so much better without that cretin, and I look forward to this format. And I hope it succeeds. But if it doesn't succeed, this last-ditch effort to keep the game, All-Star game in effect in this great league, it's going to be a stain on that smiling top-tier bastard's legacy. And, KD too, he's part of this culture problem too. Anyway, and also another thing I thought about too, the All-Star games in February. So I believe that would coincide with the Winter Olympics, which I believe is be covered by NBC. So that international world versus American, that'll fit with the schematics of what's going on with the Olympics at the time, the Winter Olympics. So that'll fit. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, tell me what you guys think.